This was filmed over the South China Sea.
I don't know what that is.
That is some weird shit.
Millennia 2735, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.7, good day.
Ho Chi Minh 120.7, good day, Millennia 2735.
That's something flying.
It's an interesting one because this is filmed by a pilot and co-pilot, so the chances of it being a hoax are a little bit smaller. My first thoughts were perhaps their lights reflected on the window from the inside. But of course, if it was a reflection, the pilot and the co-pilot would be aware of that and they wouldn't be so fascinated. And to me, they don't look mechanical. They sort of look artificial because of the formation that they're in, but they look more plasma-like. They look like a plasma to me. But because they are holding that formation, it makes them seem intelligently controlled. Hello, and welcome to News from the Fringe, number 1. Hope everyone's doing alright. I'm going to start off this little video with a personal experience that I had. It's not quite, actually it's not even vaguely paranormal, but it's sort of interesting. So I've got this little family of butcher birds that are kind of like my little buddies, at least one of them. And I'll feed them breakfast every now and then. And they'll be sitting out the back. Sometimes they come inside, cheeky little buggers. Anyway, yeah, I'll feed them breakfast sometimes. So we're mates. Anyway, one day, a couple of days ago, I was out the back doing the laundry, and then I heard this butcher bird squawking at me. It was like, rah, 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 out in the backyard. And so I was like, what the hell are you squawking at, you mad bird? And so I started walking towards him, and he's looking at me and then looking at the ground in front of him, looking at me, looking at the ground, because he's perched up on this little, this old barbecue thing it's fallen to pieces. And in the grass, or it's more like this viney sort of thing. You can see it here in the pictures. Can you see it? There's a giant snake there. It's huge. This thing knows I'm here. Hope it doesn't pounce at me. I thought that was quite cool. It just sat there. I didn't want to get too close because I heard this story about this snake catcher. And she was trying to remove a snake from a house. And then the snake just whipped its tail around her neck and strangled her. And she passed out instantly. Luckily, though, the family saw this happen and was able to pull the snake off her neck. But what I thought was really cool about this story is the butcher bird trying to warn me, a human, of danger. Okay. Alright, what have I got? I'm sure they're all great stories, you know me. We have an Australian Dogman sighting, a square moon anomaly, sounds interesting, the possible location of a lost civilization, woohoo, and this silliness, as I've written here in my notes. The Roman Empire is a hoax. This is according to Millennial, this lovely lady here on the screen. The Roman Empire never actually existed, and it's a hoax. I already said that, didn't I? Okay, so this is what Millennial thinks. She reckons that Roman archaeological sites and artifacts are misinterpretations by historians, and that Rome was in fact a hoax perpetrated by the Spanish Inquisition. Okay, so it never existed. That's stupid. I mean, I do like crazy conspiracy theories, but there's just so much evidence that the Roman Empire does exist, and I've got to be honest, I haven't looked into it, I haven't looked at her evidence, so I shouldn't really, be too harsh on her, because it's unfair if I haven't looked at her stuff. I'm just the messenger here, and just letting you guys know that this theory is out there, and if you want to check it out, speak to the lady with the bird nest on her head. I'm sure she's got all the answers. So, moving on anyway. Okay, here we go. Australian Dogman sighting. An Aussie man claims he has a photograph of a dogman-like creature, which he believes was stalking him while on a kayak fishing trip, in an undisclosed area of the Australian bush. And as you can see, looking at that photo there, it's pretty piss poor, eh? Can you see a dogman? I cannot. To me, that looks like a branch or a stick. Here's the encounter described by the man. Quote, I noticed that every time I took a stroke with the paddle of my kayak, whatever this thing was, it was taking a stride to each paddle that I was taking. I stopped for a bit, and the sound stopped in the bush too, and I thought it was a bit odd. So I took off paddling again, and sure enough, as soon as I started to paddle, every stroke, this thing would take a step. So whatever it was, this thing was following me. It wasn't a coincidence or anything. It was more of a stalk. The creature I actually got in the photo, the stick he means, I think, I reckon it's a dogman. He reckons it's a dogman, not me. Just want to make that very clear. The location of the long-lost civilization of Srivijaya may have been found. That's amazing. Srivijaya was a Malay Buddhist empire which dominated the Sumatra region of Southeast Asia from at least the 7th century up until its disappearance sometime during the 13th century. Little is known about the empire, and its disappearance is a mystery. Flooding, tsunamis, and volcanic activity have all been suggested as the culprit behind Srivijaya's demise. In recent years, it has come to marine archaeologist Sean Kingsley's attention that the local fishermen and divers of the Musi River in Sumatra have been probing the muddy riverbed and hauling up hundreds of figurines and temple bells, tools, mirrors, coins, and ceramics. They have found golden sword hilts that is, and golden ruby rings, also carved jars and wine jugs, as well as flutes shaped like peacocks. That's peacocks. Kingsley suggested that Srivijaya was probably a floating city made primarily of wood, similar to the floating villages of the region today. This is why there is no trace of the city, because it probably rotted away because it was all wood. I'm smart. Previous archaeological research in the area where Srivijaya is thought to have once sat had turned up only small hints of the once wealthy port, brick temples, and a few inscriptions only. Most of the information about the city comes from foreigners who wrote about their travels to Srivijaya. These merchants and visitors wrote of volcanoes belching smoke and fire, of man-eating snakes, parrots that could mimic Hindi, Greek, and Arabic, and well-armed sailors willing to attack any vessel that tried to pass without entering Srivijaya. These accounts give a sense of the place, but are often sensationalized and reveal little about daily life in the port city. It is hoped that the artifacts being discovered on the Musi riverbed may give scientists more clues about this mysterious lost civilization. It makes you wonder just how many of these civilizations have just disappeared to history. And the other thing I found interesting too was there's evidence that Arabs have been visiting Southeast Asia. To me, that seems like a huge distance. I wonder if that's... Yeah, I guess it makes sense that Arabs did visit Southeast Asia because Indonesia is one of the biggest Muslim countries in the world. And I always wondered how they got that influence, how they picked up that faith. There you go. Chinese rover discovers cube-shaped object on the moon. China's U-22 rover has set its sights on a very strange object spotted far off in the distance. There have been a lot of claims about anomalous objects on the lunar surface over the years, but this one, which was captured on camera by China's U-22 rover, appears to be the real deal. Exhibiting a distinctive cube-like shape that stands out on the horizon against the blackness of space, this mysterious object has attracted the attention of Chinese scientists who have since decided to send the rover all the way over to investigate exactly what it is. The fact that it is situated on the far side of the moon only serves to heighten the intrigue. I was recently reading about moon anomalies and various lunar missions, so it was pretty interesting for me to hear about China's U-22 today. Personally, I think it's a rock, but of course I hope it's some sort of alien artifact, because that would be pretty cool. Don't you agree? I can imagine John Lear being right into this, because moon anomalies was his thing. It was like a lot of it was just crap. He was really reaching for, the alien sort of hypothesis there. But there was some pretty interesting stuff, like the rolling rocks. Do you guys remember them? The rolling rocks, they'd roll. There's these images of these rocks leaving tracks. And what's weird about it is, it looks like they've rolled uphill, because there's the track, say, going up the edge of a crater, and at the top of the track is the rock. You'd expect it to be down the bottom. Anyway, that's all I've got for that one. And that's all I've got for you today. It's just a short one. But before I go, I just want to leave you with this little story here. Something I found in my little archive of stories I've got. Little Girl Lost. Ooh, did you hear that? That was my stomach. It went... Let's continue. I recall an incident that happened 20 years ago to my mother. She decided to have a phone installed in her home, as she was diabetic and wanted to be able to be in close contact with me. A day or two after having her phone installed, she started receiving very weird phone calls. She got these calls at night, in the afternoon, and in the morning. Sometimes she would get these calls 4 to 5 times per day. The calls were from a little girl who Mum said sounded like she was about 4 or 5 years old. The phone would ring. Mum would answer it, and the little girl would say, "Mama, Mama, I want my mama." And Mum would try to ask her questions, but all the little girl would say was, "Mama, Mama, I want my mama." This went on for about a week, and it freaked my mum out so bad that she had her phone disconnected and never got another phone after that. And that's all I've got for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll be seeing you next time I do. Bye.